Well, hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, today I'm going to once again speak about an incident that has happened in Afghanistan recently. Well, you all know. Uh, what does the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan mean for us? Well, what was really difficult a few years ago, tough, uh, became likely with the NATO's withdrawal from Afghanistan, was inevitable, has now happened. Well, after 20 years' wait, the Taliban, a notorious fundamentalist Islamic group with medieval mindsets and no regard for universal values, has taken over Afghanistan on 15th of August 2021, putting an end to democracy and law in that country. What was surprising was that the Taliban seized control pretty quickly without getting any resistance from President Ashraf Ghani's government or the army. Kabul was spared the bloodshed, while the other parts of the country witnessed a lot of bloodshed, for which President Ghani escaped, was allowed to leave the country, who has now claimed credit for that. It was remarkable to see that the other players of the world and international community sat on the sidelines and did not do anything to prevent Afghanistan to get controlled by Taliban. No one did anything to prevent the Taliban from gaining control in Afghanistan. So who is responsible for the Afghan fiasco? Is it the US? Is it the Afghan government slash army, or both of them? Or is it the international community? Well, arguably, it can be said that the US would not have lasted forever in Afghanistan soil. According to reports, the US have invested USD $2.6 trillion on military activities and development assistance. So, on the other hand, they cannot even escape censure for abandoning the Afghan ship in the midst of a terrible storm. Even during the reign of the then President Barack Obama, the US had stated that eventually they would withdraw their troops from Afghanistan. In an agreement that the Taliban won't strike on US interests in Afghanistan, his successor, President Trump, did eventually cement by signing a deal with the Taliban on February 29, 2020, on the US forces to withdraw from Afghanistan, and named and established May 31st, 2021 as the date for US troops to withdraw from Afghanistan. Well, this deal was signed without the presence of the newly elected Afghanistan government, but it did allow intra-Afghanistan dialogue to treat the path of their political future. The main reason for US's prolonged presence and control in Afghanistan after they managed to capture and kill their arch nemesis Osama bin Laden almost 10 years ago were numerous. On one hand, the Western countries wanted to have law and order and democracy over there and have advancement in infrastructure over there. On the other hand, the US presence was mainly to confirm the advancement of Taliban, to control the Taliban. And they in fact invested a lot of money for training and equipping the Afghan army to control the advancement of Taliban. Well, they failed miserably in controlling the Taliban from being advancing for these notorious activities. They failed miserably in controlling these Taliban group and other groups operating out of Afghanistan and the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. And the democracy values and other liberal values that were instilled in the Afghan society are under now serious threat from the Taliban. President Biden overturned many of his predecessor Trump's policies but stuck to one. He stuck to the goal of withdrawing his troops from Afghanistan. Eventually, he delayed the date to September 11, 2021. When the Taliban obstructed peace talks and was capturing provinces after provinces, districts after districts, by brutal means, he was unconcerned. When the Taliban came knocking on Kabul's doors, he was on vacation. He later justified his choice to leave Afghanistan and later also blamed the Afghan government for the disaster. He even went so far to say that nation building in Afghanistan was never in US's goals. Well, there has been two messages sent on the US-Taliban deal. One, the US could not afford to wage a long-term war against Taliban and that it was in the best interest of America to withdraw their troops from Afghanistan after an agreement with the Taliban. Two, the US was also has lost interest in the intra-Afghan discussions which had been foisted on the democratically elected Afghan government. The US also did not seem that it was important to tie their withdrawal to progress in peace talks which would eventually lead to peaceful political settlement. The situation has deteriorated. India must now carve out a niche for itself in an area which has fallen into the hands of its enemies, Pakistan and China. Pakistan and the Taliban were always working together. Pakistan has been approached by Taliban on multiple occasions and has strategic and economic goals, including using Taliban to confront extremist Uyghur Muslims to exploit vast riches in Afghanistan and also extending the Road and Belt Initiative. One of the most pressing matters for the Indian administration right now, foreign policy, is choosing and deciding between ideology and pragmatism. It is needless to say that, and very premature for the Indian administration to put anything in black and white in the near future. The Indian administration has thus adopted a wait and see attitude. However, the Indian government will have to take a harsh decision very soon. India's takeaway. Well, clearly, the Taliban win is a clear defeat for India's political, economic, and geopolitical presence in Afghanistan, where they have spent more than $3 billion in much needed infrastructure and capacity building. As a result, India enjoyed widespread popular support and also enjoyed good relations with the elected Afghanistan government. Unfortunately, India was never in a position to influence the Afghanistan's political roadmap at any point of time. Well, the situation right now, Taliban, who controls majority of the Afghan territory, has been attempting to improve its image worldwide in order to avoid international isolations and economic sanctions. Previously, only three countries had recognized the Taliban: UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. The Taliban spokesperson has been attempting to giving reassuring statements both abroad and at home to soothe anxieties. Well, such claims should be taken with a grain of salt, as it's apparent that the Taliban is attempting to build an Islamic state in which all human rights will be available under the Sharia law. Well, if the Taliban's understanding of the Sharia law is the same as it was in the 1990s, then women and young girls would face terrible times. So what's next? The international community failed to prevent the Taliban from capturing Afghanistan by gunfire and not by elections. The least they can do today is to work together and provide humanitarian aid which would help to alleviate the sufferings that the Afghan citizens might face. They must ensure that they utilize humanitarian aid to leverage in order to guarantee some respect from the Taliban for text and spirit of human rights. Another question to put forward to the table is that whether the Taliban should be recognized as a legitimate government of Afghanistan by the international community, whether or not. Well, by the current trends, it seems that countries like China, Pakistan, and Russia may grant diplomatic recognition in the near future.